الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا مولانا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين ولا يغتب بعضكم بعضا أيحب أحدكم أن يأكل لحم أخيه ميتا فكرهته. Respectful honourable friends, continuing with the topic of Gheebah, we'll try and round off. With regards this topic, as it's been mentioning, we've been mentioned it over the last couple of weeks now, but more. A couple of other aspects of Gheebah that we need to also understand. In one Malfuz, Hazrat Hakim Umar Rahmatullah Alayhi mentioned that where it is a dini requisite and a dini requirement to speak ill of a person, there it will not be, or to make gheebah of somebody, there it will not be regarded to be impermissible. However, it is important that it is solely for the tahqiq of deen and not because of a person's own nafsiyat, his own nafs and his own desires. If it is from a person's own desires, then it will be gheebah. And if it is something that a person has not verified, then it will be tuhmat, buhtan, it will be accusation. What does this malfuz mean? Hazrat Hakim Rahmatullah Alayhi mentions that there will be times wherein it is a dini requirement that a person needs to speak ill of another person. And a prime example of this is in the field of jarah ta'dil. Jarah ta'dil in the field of hadith. When it comes to the authentication of not the hadith but the narrators of hadith. And this is something that the muhaddiseen have not just taken it serious and important, but it is a requirement. That each rawi, each narrator of hadith is thoroughly checked, his background and everything. And where there are matters of concern with regard to that muhaddis, then that cannot be concealed, it will be impermissible in actual fact for those characteristics to be concealed and not be mentioned when it comes to a narrator of hadith. So there it would be important that a person mentions what the haqiqat is, what the reality is with regard to this person. And this will not be regarded to be gheebah. It will be allowed at that time. For instance, there is a great muhaddis, Ali bin Madini rahimahullah. He's a great muhaddis. His father was also a narrator of hadith, also a muhaddis. But there were concerns. There was weakness in his narrations. He was a weak narrator. Somebody asked Ali Madini rahimahullah with regards to his father, that what is your view and what do you say with regards to your father? He replied and he would say that, and he said to this person, look, ask somebody else, ask another muhaddis rather to give his verdict with regard to my father. Instead of me saying it, ask somebody else, that will make it easy. But this person insisted that no, we want to know from you what is your opinion. To which he said, إِنَّهُ الدِّينُ هُوَ ضَعِيفٌ. He said, look, this is a matter of deen, and the haqiqat is that he is a weak narrator. He is a weak narrator. He clarified by saying that, look, this is a matter of deen. This is regarding his father. So one will not say that he is making the gheebah here, and neither does he want to speak any ill of his father, take any faults of his father. But here, because he says in deen, this is a matter of deen. People need to know with regards to him in the field of hadith, what type of a narrator of hadith he is. So he himself clearly mentions that, look, he is da'if, he is a weak narrator. Similarly, you have Imam Abu Dawud, Sadistani rahimahullah, the compiler of Sunan Abi Dawud. His son was also a narrator of hadith, and he was weak. Somebody asked Imam Abu Dawud rahmatullahi with regards to his son, and there as well he says, and there he said quite openly as well, that it is not permissible, لا تحل رواية عنه, that it is not allowed or permissible to narrate from him. So this was not haram gheebah. This was where it was necessary for the sake of deen, that a person has to mention whatever faults are there in an individual and wrongs that are there in a person. So there will be occasions wherein this will not be categorized or regarded to be gheebah. Similar is, as has been asked a couple of times now, is with regards to a person in their workplace, work role that they may have, wherein a person may be in a role wherein they have to monitor other workers, other members of staff. They need to monitor their colleagues, or maybe they need to report on the work of their colleagues. And that is a trust that has been put on them. And this is an amanat. Because when we talk about amanat as well, there is, amanat is not just in the form of money, the monetary form of amanat. Somebody has given you some money to look after, and then you either look after it, or you deceive them, or you misuse or abuse the amanat, the trust that is in your control or in your possession. Amanat is quite widespread. And one amanat is also there in the workplace. And the amanat there in the workplace is, it has been given to you for you to carry that out in the correct manner. This is also an amanat. For you to cut corners, that will be going against the amanat. For you not to take it seriously, and there to not to be honest, that would also be betrayal of an amanat that is on you. That the company or the person who has employed you has put that trust in you, that you will report, or you do the work accordingly, or you report back accordingly. So if a person is in that condition, in that position or that post, wherein their work is that they have to feed back on their colleagues, other workers, that will be allowed and permissible for them to give negative reports and feedback where it is justified. One will not regard that to be gheebah, or where the case is the person in charge, the manager, asks with regards to certain workers as well, that, and they want your opinion with regards to, because they have put trust in you. Maybe they have their reservations with regards to somebody, or they don't know exactly how this person is this person honest or not. So they may ask you with regard to that individual. And their purpose of asking as well is for what? Not just for the sake of wanting to speak bad of somebody, but they ask him because they want to know with regard to work-wise, look, is this person able or capable to do the work or not? That is not a case of, no, let me conceal his faults and his wrongs, and let me there not be a gheebah of him. That will become a duty upon you to be truthful at that time. And that too is the case of the nafs as well, where, as Hakimun Rahmatullahi mentioned in this malfuz as well, with regard to keeping an eye on the nafs. And here too you have to keep an eye on the nafs. That when you know that this is a colleague of mine, and he is maybe a competition to me as well, and if I take his post, or if he is no longer employed, then that is better for me. That is where the imtihan is, the test is upon you as well, whether you are truthful or not. Because if you are not going to be truthful, then that is straightforward slander, that is a lie as it is. And also, how much do you, to what extent do you mention? Do you add on a whole lot of mirch masala to it and exaggerate it? Yes, the person may be cutting corners, or there might be issues, there are weaknesses that are there, but you now enlarge those weaknesses, you mention it out of proportion, you exaggerate. with regards to those issues that are there. So this is also an amanat, how truthful you are going to be. So in that position that you are in, it is allowed for you to mention the haqiqat, the reality that will not be regarded to be gheebah. Ustad may ask his students as well with regard to other students. That too as well, the students are mentioned because that is a place wherein there is monitoring that takes place with regard to what is happening, what is going on. Where there is that position of the father asking the children as well, with regards one son, with regards to other, he says, I went to the majlis today and I can't do gheebah of my brother. And you say, what? I can't do gheebah of my brother. I can't do gheebah of my sister. I know what she's up to and I know the wrongs that she's doing in that. But look, if I tell you, then she's going to be upset. She won't like me telling you, so I can't make gheebah of my sister now. Or I can't make gheebah of my brother. No, there is a case of this person, the father is not asking just for the sake of time passing and for the sake of nafs. There is a case of he has a responsibility, so he wants to know with regard to the tarbiyah and the treatment of his children. So there will be those occasions wherein it will be allowed for a person to mention the reality, the haqiqat, what is there, and that will not be regarded to be gheebah. But throughout all of these places and opportunities where it is allowed for you to say what the truth is, it is very important that a person keeps an eye on the nafs. That the nafs is not just taking advantage of the situation in order to deliberately speak ill of somebody. Somebody asked you with regards, as I mentioned this previously as well, with regards to a proposal, asking with regards the background of a girl or the background of a boy or the background of the families. And you take this as a good opportunity to put in a spanner in the wheels to speak ill of the boy or the girl or the family, then that again will be betrayal of aman. Mention whatever is necessary alone and nothing that is not of concern to what has been asked you've been asked for. So to be honest there, this is not making gheebah of a person. And if somebody comes to know this as well, they should not feel bad that, look, you made the gheebah to me. Why did you make gheebah of mine? Why did you go and mention these things with regard to me to so-and-so or the person in charge or the manager or the place of employment or so? And then give them and send them hadiths and that on the administration of gheebah and that. Like people will do this indirectly, then this is what they do. They start sending these messages. So if you have made a gheebah of somebody and then not long after that you start receiving some messages with regards to gheebah and that, then take hint from there that, look, that person, somebody has betrayed you and told that person that, look, you are making a gheebah of them. And they become aware of it, that's why now they're sending these messages to you. So in this way there will be those opportunities or those occasions wherein it will be allowed for a person to do gheebah and it won't be classified as gheebah. But as Hakim Rahmatullah mentioned, it is important that a person keeps an eye on the intention as well, that here, is it the haqiqat for the sake of deen that you're mentioning these things, or is it because of the nafs? Keeping a check on those things are very, very important. And this is how our aslaf were, and this is what from those points that their gazes fell on these type of things, they understood these type of things. Such type of things that do not affect us, we do not have that ihsas, the feeling about these type of things. Just the way in gheebah, when a person does gheebah of somebody, and if they come to know that you have made gheebah of them, just for the sake of that few moments where you enjoyed yourself in speaking ill and bad of that person, that leads towards lifetime of enmity and lifetime of breaking of ties in friendship. That person who you have made gheebah of, if they were to know of it, and also what has been said about them, then they're not going to be too happy about it. And neither will they then want to maintain ties with you. That relationship, that friendship, that love that may have been there, that isn't going to last. So a person is losing that relationship, that friendship that is there. For what? For momentary. Just for short while, small period of time. Short period of time of enjoyment. Or just few matters or few words or so. A person is losing out on so much. But our situation is, our condition is, just because we get in those moments of enjoyment, and that is not with regards to this gheebah, But this is with all the ma'asiyat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that just for the sake of those moments of enjoyment, we forget about or we become oblivious of the consequences of it. That's the fact, for that moment of time, we get whatever pleasure or enjoyment out of the disobedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is all we are after. That is all that we look at, that is all that we want. We do not look beyond that, and we do not think of the consequences of the wrongs that we're doing. The sin that we commit, how that is going to affect us in the hereafter. The sins that we commit with regard to other people, and Gheebah will be in there as well. What will the consequences of that be for me in the hereafter as well? There is no ihsas of these things. And there is no ihsas feelings with regards, no consideration with regards, is because we take all the ma'asiyat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be light. We take the ma'asiyat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be so light. And whereas our aslaf were, that never mind disobeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. For example, Hazrat Mawlana Rashid Gangohi rahmatullahi, on one occasion when he was at Darul Uloom Deoband, they were having the end of year Dastarbandi, graduation jalsa. And Hazrat Mawlana Rashid Gangohi rahmatullahi became a little occupied in something by which he did not hear the beginning of the salat or the azan or so. So, well, what had happened prior to that is that Hazrat Mawlana Rashid Gangohi rahmatullahi was sat and he was very upset. He was very upset. And somebody came and noticed that Hazrat is very upset. What is the matter? And he asked him, he said, gham hai. I feel very grieveful, sorrowful. I feel very upset today. And somebody asked him with regard to why he is so upset. And that's when he mentioned that being occupied in something, he got to the masjid after the takbir ula. And he says, for the first time in 30 years, I have missed my takbir ula. First time in 30 years, I have missed takbir ula. And because of that, he was sat there so upset. Meaning something like that as well, which we would regard to be trivial, but it doesn't matter, we've still got the qiraat, we've still got the salat, we've still got the first rakat anyway. So the fact that he missed the takbir ula, first time after 30 years he missed the takbir ula, but that has certain effect that he was so sorrowful with regard to it and it made him so sad. Why? Because they had that ihsas, the realization of these type of things. As Mawlana Yaqub Nanoti rahmatullahi, on one occasion, he ate something, a morsel which he had doubts. He was not too sure with regards to whether it was halal or not. So it wasn't a case of knowing, yes, that it was from source of haram or so. It was something that was mushtabih. Just he had shak, he had doubt on it. But the effect of that was such on him that he says for a whole month, I could feel the zulmat of that in my heart. I could feel the zulmat of that in my heart. Meaning, not that what he had eaten was haram. What is that eating the haram, he would have perceived the zulmat of that as it is, which would have been a different level of zulmat. But just the fact that the food that he had eaten, which would have been halal, it was because it was immediate, it was mashkuk. There was shak in it, that he had doubt in it. But the effect of the thought of eating a morsel that was doubtful was such that it affected him for entire months. They felt these type of things. We commit the disobedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, ma'asiyat of Allah ta'ala, day and night, and we do not even feel anything about it at all. And the reason why we don't feel anything is because of the way our hearts are. If our hearts were clean, if our hearts were cleansed, then we would understand these things. We would realize these things. We would make sure to save ourselves from these things. And the example of clothing, if you have a white garment, the moment there is a speck of dirt on it, you are able to see it, you are able to notice it. If you're wearing a dark garment, then no matter how many specks of dirt is on it, you're not going to realize that, look, the garment is dirty. And because our hearts are already so filthy and so dark, because of that, all these specks of dirt that lands on our hearts, we do not perceive it at all. It's just normal, everyday normal for us, because it doesn't mean anything at all. And that person whose garments are clear and clean, and they want to keep it clean as well, not only will they notice when there is dirt on it, but they will ensure and they will try their utmost that their garment is clean. Wherever they'll be, they'll make sure that, look, they sit in a clean place, they make sure to walk so in such a manner that no splashes or dirt splashes on them. They'll be conscious of these things, they'll be wary of these type of things. and they will notice where there is dirt, where there isn't dirt, where to be, where not to be, where to sit, how to walk, and that. And that person who doesn't, for them it doesn't matter these type of things. For them, no matter what color clothing they have, they'll just sit wherever, outside as well, whether it's wet, whether it's dirty or so, they just sit on the grass, they sit on any chair, on any bench, because it doesn't matter to them at all. And that is how we have become as well. That it seems that it doesn't matter to us, and at the same time, because our hearts are so filthy, we don't even perceive, we don't even realize. Day and night we make gheebah of somebody, but we don't even feel with regard to that, look, I'm making the gheebah of somebody, what about the consequences? How am I going to redeem myself from this? How am I going to get out of this mess that I've been putting myself into? Because when a person makes the gheebah of somebody, how detrimental it is that until that person does not forgive you, Allah Ta'ala will not forgive you as well. And getting forgiveness from Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, that is easy. Huququllah is easy for a person to redeem themselves. Make tawbah, ask from Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, Allah Ta'ala will forgive. But when it comes to making the gheebah, there now in this case of now, just imagine how many people we have added to our list that who we need to seek forgiveness from, who we need to ask forgiveness for. And until they do not forgive us, that will remain, and they will remain an obstacle for us in the hereafter. Our Allah Ta'ala's forgiveness will be dependent on that person's forgiveness. That is how detrimental it is. And when that is the case, and when we know that, then why do we indulge in day to night, day and night, just doing the gheebah of people? And there are those who are so free with their tongue, who are so free with their time as well, for whom gheebah has become such a leisure and such a pastime that it isn't a case of, okay, just here and there you've just made a gheebah of somebody, or just a few moments where you slipped and you made a gheebah of somebody, but it is a habit, it is an occupation for some. It is a habit and occupation for some. Morning to evening, whether it is verbal gheebah that they're making, or now it's the case, or whether it is on the messages and the groups and that as well, gheebah after gheebah and all this social media as well as on the chats that we are on. And then if it isn't verbal, if it's not typed gheebah, then it will be gheebah as well by means of ishara, by means of indications as well. This is also gheebah. This is also gheebah. For instance, there is a person who has a lame leg, for instance. Somebody who walks with a limp, and you walk past that person, or maybe there is somebody who is squint. You walk past that person, and there is somebody else who, a friend of yours, and you deliberately do what? You squint your eyes. You squint your eyes deliberately to your friend. Why? What you doing? You actually making a mockery. This is also a gheebah of that person. Just the way you say, oh, that benga. And in English, whatever you will say, being with B. Same you've done, you haven't said anything. So you may think that, look, I'm not saying anything, I didn't say anything about that individual, but the fact that you did by signs and indication, or you started limping behind his back, you started stumbling as he may be stumbling, or maybe a person stutters, and you deliberately with your tongue made an indication towards somebody who stutters, or other forms of such indication towards maybe a disability of somebody, or a defect within that individual. Although you may say that, look, I haven't said anything at all. Nothing at all. How could I make gheebah of that person? I didn't say anything at all. But this will also be gheebah because you're doing behind the back of that individual. And it is something that is found in that person. If it isn't found in that person, then that is going to be slander of that individual. So gheebah is not necessarily just by tongue. It is by writing as well. And it is also by form of indication. Form of indication. And not only that, but another thing that just come to mind as well. Nowadays where people take photos, or they have photos of people, or even themselves of other people, and they make all funny designs with it. Make funny designs of that individual. Eyes, ears, and all other sort of things on it. This will also be gheebah. This is mockery and this is gheebah. This is also haram. Means that now you've made that person's face in such a manner that if you were to show that person that, look, this is what I made of your face, are they going to be happy about it? They're not going to be happy about it. So the fact that they're not going to be happy about it, that shows that it is gheebah. That shows itself that this is in Gheebah. As it is, you're not supposed to be doing these type of things anyway. But the fact that you do something that of that person and then you make a mockery of it and you send it to your friends and that, and this is you make a picture of somebody in such a manner, this will also fall under the category of Gheebah. And these are those type of things that we do plenty of times. We do all the time. And what is something important here is, which we do not realize, is that we do it in such a manner that we don't even regard it to be sinful. Any sin that you do, and you know that it is a sin, at least there is still the opportunity that a person will make tawbah, regret and remorse. If you don't, like bid'ah as well, when a person commits bid'ah, one of the major harms of innovation in deen and bid'ah is that a person is deprived of tawbah. Because that person who does bid'ah thinks that he is acting upon deen. It is a sunnah. He regards it to be deen. And nobody ties a turban and then makes tawbah, Allah forgive me, I tied a turban. Nobody will say that. But rather they'll say, Alhamdulillah, Allah Ta'ala gave me the tawfiq to tie a turban. Somebody uses a miswak. Somebody does anything good in deen, they're going to say, Alhamdulillah upon it, that look, they got the tawfiq to do that. They won't make tawbah. Yes, when a person does something wrong, they say, Allah tawbah, they'll make tawbah, then because I did something wrong. So in bid'ah, because they regard it to be deen, they do not know it's wrong, they're not going to make tawbah. Here too, any such things that we do not regard to be sin, we know it is sinful. Very few are there who don't know that it is sinful. We know it is wrong, we know it is a sin, but we still do it. Why? Because we don't regard it to be a sin, we don't realize that it is sinful. Because of that, we don't make gheebah. How many times we make gheebah? Do we after that realize, look, I made gheebah Allah, and we need to ask Allah Ta'ala forgiveness. And then there is also that person that we have to ask forgiveness for. There is also that person that we have to ask forgiveness for. Hence, coming on to the aspect of how do you redeem yourself, although there is another aspect of this malfuz of Hazrat Gheebah rahmatullahi alayhi which is still left. That is, how do you redeem yourself? Now, because gheebah is part of what hukukul ibad, and any hukukul ibad means that there you have, which means that the rights of people. Hukukul ibad is when it comes to rights of people. So matters when it comes to dealing with people is that you need to ask that person for forgiveness. You stole from somebody, you can't just turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and ask Allah ta'ala for forgiveness. You're going to have to return that item and you're going to have to ask that person for forgiveness. Just merely asking Allah ta'ala is not sufficient. You deprive somebody of their share in the inheritance. You ask Allah ta'ala for forgiveness, Allah ta'ala's forgiveness, Allah will not forgive you. Because their forgiveness is not based on Allah Ta'ala forgiving, because Allah will not forgive until that person does not forgive. No matter how much you cry in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you need to ask that person for forgiveness. So whatever wrong you have done, cheated somebody, deceived somebody, there you have to ask that person's forgiveness. That's why we say hukukul ibad is difficult. Hukukullah is still easy. Allah will very easily forgive you. This is a matter between you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Hukukul ibad, that isn't the case. You're going to have to face everybody. You're going to have to ask them for forgiveness. Gheebah falls into that as well. So the ruling there is that you have to ask forgiveness from that person. And as the Hakim mentioned, they're asking forgiveness from that person is when they come to know of it, when they become aware that you have made gheebah of them, then it becomes binding upon you that you need to ask them for forgiveness. You need to ask them for forgiveness. Although it's not necessary that you need to now give them the detail that, look, last night we made your gheebah, and these are the type of things we want to discuss with regard to you. These were the things that he said, and this was the things that I said. But mine was just a lighter version of gheebah, and his was a stronger version or the heavier version, the larger load and proportion of gheebah came from this friend of yours, but rather I was just the lighter version and that. There is no need to go into detail of it, but you need to ask that person for forgiveness. Until then, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not forgive. And the easiest way of asking a person for forgiveness is, and this is something that we find in our custom as well, especially amongst the elders. That you will find elders when they meet people, even those who are younger than them, what they will say? Bhai, boli chali maaf. Bhai, kaha suna maaf kar. They say that, isn't it? Kaha suna maaf kar. You go visiting somewhere, you come away from somewhere, you're going somewhere, you're going for Hajj or Umrah, or just a meeting in that various occasions. You ask people for forgiveness. This is also very helpful for a person. Because in that, you're not specifically saying to them, by forgive me for the gheebah that I made of yours. But you say, by look, whatever wrong I've done, you forgive me. By maaf karna. Whatever I've said or done, forgive me. Whatever I've said or done, so whatever I've said, all the gheebah will come in there. Whatever I have done, whatever you may have done also. So by saying that each time that you meet people or when you are with people, because when you are, and this is something that you understand why people say this. You go as a visitor somewhere, or somebody visitors come to you, or maybe you, for example, you are with workplace as well. And then you have your term holidays in madrasa maybe, or workplaces and that, or end of the week or so. And now you're going to meet your colleagues after the holidays or the weekend. Again there. Because you are with different people for a period of time, something or the other is going to happen. Where maybe you did a gheebah of somebody, you did something that hurt them, or something that disturbed them, or they did something to you. These type of things are going to happen, especially when we are together. So there to ask forgiveness in such a manner, this will compensate for it. As Nabi Kareem sallallahu ta'ala sallam himself on occasion said in Mimbar and said that, look, if there's anybody who has any right or due upon me, then he should either take that from me or he should forgive. Either take or then he should forgive. So either come and take what is due to you, or I ask for forgiveness or forgive me for it. And when Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam said this, one Sahabi said, yes, oh Nabi Allah, one occasion you hit me. You hit me on my back. So Nabi Kareem said, okay, come and hit me. To which he said, oh Nabi Allah, the time when you hit me on my back as well, I didn't have a shirt on. So Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, okay, said, took off his shirt. And this Sahabi came behind Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wasallam, and his whole purpose was to come behind Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam to kiss the seal of prophethood. As an excuse that is a good opportunity for me to kiss the seal of prophethood. That was his maqsad and purpose there. But Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wasallam still gave that opportunity to Sahaba that, look, if I have any rights that I've done, anything that belongs to you also, then take from me here, if not then forgive. Because here in this world, this is the best place to solve all these matters and forgive in this here. Otherwise the hereafter is going to become very difficult. So this method that we have, either you tell the person or is a case of in general form. And by general form as well at that time, but you need to be sincere as well. Not just say, for the sake of it, by forgive me, it's big night, forgive me, this occasion, forgive me, whatever wrong. Somebody sent you a message and you just forwarded that on for the sake of it. No. At least at that time, although it may be customary as well, but you mean it in your heart that, look, I'm asking this person for forgiveness. You want that that person forgives you. And if you ask that person for forgiveness, and it might be a case when they said, no, look, okay, whatever, you're asking for forgiveness, but I can't forgive you. I can't forgive you. The hurt that you did, the harm that you did to me, I can't forgive you, and I'm not going to forgive you, or I'm not going to forgive you. Then what do? There our duty is to continue asking that person for forgiveness. And if that person doesn't have it in their hearts to forgive you, then a time will come when maybe in the hereafter or in this world, Allah Ta'ala will settle their heart that they will forgive you. As long as you are sincere in asking that person for forgiveness. As long as you are sincere. But remember, when it comes to hukukul ibad, where you can give back, you need to give what is back to that person. If they forgive you, then that is good. If they do not, then maybe Allah Ta'ala will please them on a day of Qiyamah. Hence, there may be those people who we have done wrong to, there may be those people who we have done the gheebah of, who have passed away. Who have passed away, they've left this world. How do we now redeem ourselves? How do we ask them for forgiveness? Their redemption is and compensation is that we should seek forgiveness for that person and continue seeking forgiveness for that person, or do sadaqah for that person, make dua for that person, until you reach a stage wherein you feel in your heart satisfied that now you have redeemed yourself, that you have made a lot of tawbah for that person, you've done sadaqah for that person, you made dua for that person. that will also become a means of compensation for the wrong that you have done to that person. Meaning that when a person is sincere, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will definitely open up a way for an individual. There is always a way. Person should not feel or lose hope that now what do I do? Mean that a person realizes, look, they made the gheebah of so many people and they've done wrong. And they cannot have access. People in your young days, after becoming mature and baligh in that, school days, universities these days, you made gheebah of so many people. You never even realized at that time that it was wrong and you made so many gheebah. And you do not know where they are now. How are you going to find them all? That you're going to be able to ask them for forgiveness. So in this way, ask Allah Ta'ala, make tawbah to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, and have it in your heart that, look, if I see this person, if I come to know where this person is or communicate with this person, I will ask them for forgiveness. And until you can, make dua for that person. Make dua to that person. So at least this will also compensate for an individual. I mean, there is no way, the person should not feel, or the person should not lose hope in the forgiveness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Like that person who had killed 99 people. He had killed 99 people now. But Allah Ta'ala gave him, he died, he wanted to change his life, and he had a guilt and remorse, he wanted to know how he can redeem himself. So he came to a rabbi or priest, so asked him that, is there any forgiveness for me? So she said, no chance, there's no forgiveness for you. So he said, well, there's no point of view as well. So he got rid of him. Why sit on the crease of 99 for his sentence? So he hit his century. But he still was sincere, he wanted to be forgiven. So in this way he found an abid, who was an alim as well, and asked him that, how is there forgiveness for me or not? To which he was said, yes, make tawbah and Allah Ta'ala will forgive you. Make tawbah and Allah Ta'ala will forgive you. And then what he was told, but one condition is that, look, leave where you are. Leave the place where you're living and go to this other place, which is a place of righteous people. Go there and live with them. If you're sincere, then leave the environment as well that you are in. Which shows us that if we are sincere in making tawbah, and if we know that our associates, our company, are those who are always doing gheebah, this is their habit. But I've now made tawbah, I've understood over the last couple of weeks, been listening to gheebah and the harms of gheebah, I've made tawbah now. But then to keep on remaining on those groups, that is not tawbah. To remain in that company where you know that, look, you're going to get involved in the game. Somebody's in bad company where people are drinking alcohol, they drink, they smoke, they take drugs. You've made tawbah from that, you want to stay away from that, but you still sat there. And you still get the whiff of that, you're going to get involved with it again. How long is your tawbah going to remain? How long is your strength and your resolute going to remain? It's not going to last long. You have to come out of that environment, stay away from those sins, away from those people and those things which will lead you towards that as well. So that company where you know that, look, this is a company that they know is that they do gheebah all the time. There is this case of Islam Kalam, how you start keep a distance from them. Do not get too involved with them, because you know how are you going to save yourself from making the gheebah when you're going to be in that company all the time. And that's with regards to all bad company, all wrongs and sins, where you know that, look, you want to leave the sins, but the people around you are those who are going to incline you towards those sins. They're going to draw you towards those sins. Then you have to stay away from that company as well. Here too, very important that you stay away from that company. So he was advised as well that if you're going to stay where you are, that it won't stop and end on 100, it will continue 101, 102, and you'll continue killing away in this way. So he was told to go to the area, the vicinity, the village, when there were those of the righteous people. And he was sincere, so he migrated, he went there. And while he was on his way, that's when the angels of death came to take his ruh. And then that's where the dispute occurred as well. The angel of death who takes the ruh of a righteous person came down, and the one who takes the ruh of a wretched person came as well, and they started having an argument there as well. One saying, I have the right to take his ruh. The other saying, I have the right to take his ruh. He killed 100 people, it's my right. The other one said, no, but he's made tawbah, it's my right. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent a third angel as a judge between them, and what was the decision-making factor that this Allah Ta'ala commanded the angel to tell both that measure the distance between where he is left and the distance between to where he is traveling. And in that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made it such that he was actually closer to where he had left from, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded the earth to shift in such a manner, or in one riwayah it mentioned that when his ruh departed from him, he just extended his chest. So a matter of millimeters or so, he was closer to the vicinity of the righteous people. So he wasn't from the righteous yet. He had just made tawbah. But because he was already on the path of righteousness, and he was just in the company of the righteous people, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala resurrected him, because the way you die, إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالْخَوَاتِيمِ, that how a person dies is how he'll be resurrected on the day of Qiyamah. He died on Tawbah. He died not as a serial killer, but he died as one who's taib, one who had made Tawbah to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he was on the way to the righteous ones. And this is also وَالَّذِينَ جَاهَدُوا فِينَا لَنَهْدِيَنَّهُمْ سُبُلَنَا. How Allah Ta'ala makes it easy for that person. He was on the path of righteousness, and Allah Ta'ala actually commanded the earth to shift here and the right and left. So وَاسْتَبَعَدُ, move away from him, and تَقَارَبُ, move closer to him, so that he can be counted amongst the righteous. Although he was not from the righteous, but at least the fact that he died in that day, he will be resurrected amongst the righteous as well. Which actually shows the whole point of mentioning this hadith is that how this person killed 100 people, but then to the doors of Tawbah were not closed for him. Allah Ta'ala still kept that opportunity for him. So even if we have made a gheebah of so many people, but we do not know where they are, we have made a gheebah of people who have demised, who passed away as well, we still have that opportunity of how we can still do good for them, so that at least on the day of Qiyamah, they will not take revenge. Allah Ta'ala will, everything is in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah Ta'ala will please their hearts, and due to it, they will forgive us on the day of Qiyamah. So this is how detrimental it is, that until they do not forgive us, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not forgive. So each time we do gheebah of somebody, we should think at that time that, look, what is the benefit? Weigh the benefits and the harm. In your mind immediately just do the pros and cons. Put all the pros and cons. You might put the pros there, is it? Okay, I'll get a buzz out of it, enjoyment out of it, fun out of it, some pleasure out of it, pastime out of it. I might get a promotion out of it, I might get this benefit or that benefit from it. Then put on the other side all the azab that is there, the displeasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the forgiveness that you have to ask and all that, and the consequences in the hereafter. And no way at all that a person with sound mind will come to that conclusion that no, the pros are more. Pros are still in the enjoyment, and the pros are better than the cons. No, the cons are so many that those are so difficult for you to be able to redeem yourself from. So best is, let me just control my tongue and not do gheebah of somebody at all. Where there is a gathering of gheebah, let me abstain from that. Let me save myself from not just that gathering of gheebah, but by saving myself from the gathering of gheebah, I will be saving myself from the hereafter as well, from the punishment of the hereafter. And that is more. And a person will feel satisfied. Initially, a person will find it difficult. Oh, I missed out on talking bad of that person, I missed out on that gathering, I missed out of that company, or so, I missed out of being part of that chat at that time. You might feel it, but then as you stay away from it, you start understanding, and you'll feel good as well. You know, it is much better and safer for me to be away from such groups and such chats and such type of company as well. And remember, there is no obligation upon us, and you have the choice as well. You have the choice as well. No admin can keep you glued to that and shackled to that group that you can't escape, and you cannot remove yourself from those groups. You can remove your group no matter how many times they add you, they can remove, and you can even have some setting wherein it is a case of they can't re-add you as well until you yourself do not choose to be added as well. So there is all these opportunities as well. And realize that, look, what is better for you? What is better for you? And this is better for a person to remain safeguarded. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala keep us all safeguarded. Allah ta'ala grant us all the understanding as well. There is one other aspect of this malfuz of Hazrat Hakim Umar rahmatullah alayhi as well, which is quite important, but we'll leave that, otherwise time will be prolonged. And maybe mention that if Allah ta'ala is next week. which is linked to ghibat, but it's also a point on its own as well, but a very important one, something that we do not really pay heed towards. And it is something that we just shows us how Allah Ta'ala had made these individuals, these people, true spiritual doctors. True spiritual doctors, not just spiritual doctors, but they were specialists. So specialists who could pinpoint and who could see these flaws that are in us, these illnesses that are there in us, so that at least through that we become aware of it. And also, yes, one point so that we can round off that of ghibat. And that is one final, from the remedies of ghibat, some have been mentioned throughout the discourses. One last remedy of ghibat is that a person should inculcate within them tawazu, to inculcate humility in an individual. Because when will you do ghibat? You will do ghibat of somebody when you regard yourself to be better than that person. Because you regard yourself, I've got no faults and this person has faults, so you mention those faults of that person. So you will take the faults out of a person when you regard yourself to be faultless. When that person who has pride in them is the one who will take out faults of others. That person who has humility within themselves will realize and who feel that look, they are worse than others, won't have that time and pleasure to take out faults of others, because they will be more concerned with regards to themselves. They'll be more concerned with regard to themselves rather than that of other people. Yes, that person thinks, I'm something and I'm so perfect and I'm so great and that. That is the one who says, look, this person like this, he's like this, he's like that, she's like this, she's like that. And the person who has humility within them won't start looking at these faults of people and won't be concerning themselves with the faults of others. They'll be more concerned with regard to their own faults. On one occasion, Azabna Khair Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, Khalifa Hazrat Hakim Rahmatullahi, the founder of Khairul Madaris Multan, he came to his Pir Bhai, as Mufti Mahmud Hassan Ahmad Tasri Rahmatullahi, who is the Bani of Jamia Lahore, Jamia Shafiya Lahore. And he came to him and he said to him that whenever I go in the Majlis of Hazrat Hakim Rahmatullahi, the people are there. So whenever I'm there, I regard and I feel myself to be the most inferior that is there in that gathering. I regard myself to be the most inferior of those who are there in that gathering. Is this something right or wrong? Should I be feeling this way or not? That's when Mufti Mahmud Hassan Ahmad Tasri Rahmatullahi, he said to him that what you have described with regard to yourself is exactly how I feel as well. This is exactly how I feel as well. That I regard, these were the Ajil Khulafa of Zakimun Rahmatullahi. That I regard myself to be the most inferior than all those who are there in that majlis, in that gathering. So they both thought to themselves, let us go and clarify this to Hazrat Hakim Rahmatullahi. Is this type of thought correct or not correct? Are we belittling ourselves? Is this humility? Is it not humility? Is it pride? What and that? So they asked Hazrat Hakim Rahmatullahi and mentioned that, look, this is the kayfiyat that we have. When they said this, Hazrat Hakim Rahmatullahi said that my condition itself is during majlis, that I regard myself to be the most inferior than all those who are sat in front of me. Then all those who are sat in front of me. And Hazrat Hakim Rahmatullahi says as well, I regard myself to be lower than every creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and fil ma'al, even that over the kuffar and disbelievers as well, and all the creation of Allah ta'ala in the hereafter as well. Why? Because here there is no guarantee. All the Muslims who are alive now, who are around, there is no guarantee that I am better than them. Because in what condition I die, what condition they die, nobody knows. So until we do not know what condition we are going to die, there is no scope for pride at all. And fil ma'al, with regards to the akhirah, they are to lower than animals as well and lower than the disbelievers as well. Why? Because if they die without iman, they never have iman. But if Ashraf Ali was to die without iman, having iman, then I am worse than a disbeliever as well. Because a non-believer didn't believe. And he'll die as a non-believer. But if I had iman and if I die without iman, then I am worse than them as well. And I am worse than them as well. Allah had given me, and none of us has any guarantee of how our end is going to be. And until then, when we do not know Dini-wise, Imani-wise, we cannot have pride and arrogance in us that look, we have Iman in us and we are Jannati and we are righteous and we are pious. We do not know whatsoever. Whose condition can change when? Who Allah Ta'ala accepts and who Allah Ta'ala rejects, we do not know. There may be that person who we look down at. This person doesn't even read namaz, he doesn't read his salah, he doesn't practice deen, or he drinks, he's intoxicated all the time, he's in this condition, that condition. Who knows what if Allah Ta'ala gives him tawfiq, hidayat, he makes tawbah and he becomes a wali of Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala and we just lend that. Or who knows that we may think ourselves because of our pride, look, we're not doing these things, we are better than this person. Allah Ta'ala shows us and Allah Ta'ala puts us into those sins and we die in a case wherein we are in the situation where we are committing those sins. Nobody knows what his end is going to be. When that is the case, there is no scope for pride and arrogance. So that person who has humility in them, they will be able to save themselves from Gheebah, slander and all these illnesses because they've got no time for that. They know themselves, they're not in that position to talk bad of others because they're more concerned with regard to themselves. Think about ourselves. You're going on about this and that person, but look about it. We're not free from any sins at all. We're talking about what sins they are committing, but what about sins that we are committing as well? So it's not a case of we're not committing any sins, then fine, if we're not, then we can speak about others, but that isn't the case. So tawazu, humility is also a remedy to Gheebah. Allah Ta'ala grant us all the understanding. Allah Ta'ala save us all from this evil of Gheebah, and not just Gheebah, but all forms of illnesses, spiritual illnesses. Allah Ta'ala save us all from this, give us the tawfiq to be able to remedy ourselves. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين.